Hello and welcome to the midlife. Hi, Tracy.
Hello, Kimby. Hi, everybody.
So I mentioned briefly in our last episode, but we got sidetracked as we always do on other conversation. First of all, I want to stop clearing my throat when we're recording. That's number one. Also what I want.
I'd like to stop doing that weird click thing I do.
Yeah. Well, there's always the editor.
God bless the editor.
God bless the editor. But I want to circle back. So I mentioned to you that one of the things that had me kind of stressed out right now is I got my blood work back. You and I have been dabbling in the bioidentical hormones, and I had my first blood test and my blood work came back. And so many things about it threw me. The first is that my testosterone came back at 245, which is meaningless unless you know that the little range that they give on your test results says it should be between 2 and 45. And mine was 245.
Yeah.
So I started freaking out, like my hair's going to fall out. I'm going to have back knee. I am going to have roid rage, and I am transitioning into a man, like completely flipped out. So I called the doctor this morning. I'm meeting with her on Friday, but I know we got to stop doing this, but it's a Monday here, even though it's New Year's Eve for you guys, but it's like mid-December Monday, and I'm meeting with the doctor on Friday. But I thought, of course, I wildly Googled like natural ways to combat testosterone, went crazy down that rabbit hole. And then, of course, the result had come over the weekend. So I called them this morning. I'm like, look, this is where it is. And I thought before I come in on Friday, should I retest? Because also my logical brain said this could just be an anomaly, something weird in the test, or there was a mistake or something, maybe retest it before I completely freak out, which I was like, wow, what a grown up to be mature about it for a minute and stop being hysterical. So the nurse comes back on the line and she says, no, that's peak and it will settle back down around 175. Which was very reassuring. But then it also made me so crazed, and why I feel like we're all in this position to begin with, that the current medical advice of the range of 2 to 45 is still in the I'm dead inside range.
Yeah,
but that's
so
medically accepted.
It's not for anyone that knows what's going on. So in the people I hate, the people that tell you, yeah, it's so wrong. It's completely wrong. And just so you know, mine's up and maybe even higher than that, because everyone's body's different and they process it different. And I think I need to be closer to 300 for my body to be working right. And it doesn't do anything bad to my body. It actually feels like I'm actually running correctly. And so don't freak out.
Yeah.
There's definitely, and it fluctuates because your body's going to process it and use it and, start to break it down. And like she said, that's peak. So you just started, your body's figuring out how to metabolize it and use it. And isn't it? It's just crazy.
But I just thought it's really important. And I think that you and I have the objective of sharing this information because we have to collectively establish what the actual normal is supposed to be and not what the medical institution has told us it's supposed to be, or where they even derived that number. Or is that the number that, a menopausal woman would have or not have? And that's not what is actually going to make you feel good. And if we're not sharing that information, then I would like to spare somebody the freak out of, oh my God, my doctor's overdosed me and I'm going to die.
Completely,
in fact, it's normal, good. It's where it's supposed to be if you're walking down this path.
Yes, I think it's hugely important that this conversation continues. And I think what I keep hearing from people is you have to find the right doctor too, because most doctors are like, oh, just suck it up. This is what it is. Like, you're in the normal range and you're just, exercising and eat right. And it's, it's, I just want to punch people sometimes. It's like, of course, yes, but it's not the answer when something inside of your body is not actually being created that you need to function correctly. And a lot of the medical world is going to tell you tough patooties, old lady.
Yeah. But I just said,
make you feel really bad about it.
Well, isn't it funny that you and I haven't even had this conversation? Right. So had I known that yours was maybe supposed to be closer to 300, I would have been thinking, oh, okay, I haven't had some horrible overreaction to it. In fact, it's the expected and intended reaction to it. And I just need to completely discount what comes back on the lab result, because I do trust my doctor and I do think I'm in the right place. And I do think that she's experienced enough and educated enough in this realm to be doing the right thing by my body. But it's like, I'm so tired of it being like a medical mystery and I'm so glad that, we are talking about this and that people can be listening. And I just think to point out, like, here, you and I are so close and we are sharing all this information privately as well as with all of you. And we haven't even talked about that.
Yes. I didn't even realize. And that's what's so great about this, is to keep having the conversations. We talked in that way with my doctor. So she was so forward about the numbers and what was, like, don't even look at that number. That doesn't make any sense. That won't be anywhere. You need to be more like here. And this is, these are the new paradigms, and you don't be surprised if you need to be this high, and, do not freak out. It's a dance and every person's so different. And we have to find your sweet spot that works well for your body, and even how long it works. Like, when you need something else, or when you may need more, or, a re-up or whatever, depending on how you're handling, if you're adding in hormones and things, like, it depends how your body uses it. So I guess I didn't have the freak out because I had such good support around it. So I'm glad you brought it up, because I wouldn't have realized, it's so funny how you expect everyone to have the same experience.
Well, here's what's crazy. So in retrospect, I have an amazing replay camera in my brain. And in retrospect, she had that conversation with me.
Oh, okay.
And she was throwing numbers at me. And all I kept thinking was, I did have some testosterone in my system and it was within those normal ranges. So I was actually already concerned that she was going to be treating that, because I did not process the information that the range given by the lab is not a range that gives you a happy body, happy life.
Right. That's dead inside. These are the dead inside numbers. Yes.
Right.
And so, perfect. You are dead inside. This shows. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she did exactly. And so I can play it back. I can hear the conversation. So it was 100% on me and what I could take in at that moment. And because I am such a black and white person, I was like, this is my number now. This is what the number of the lab says. And I totally missed over the part where she had the same conversation with me that your doctor had with you.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And we do that a lot when doctors speak, because it's a lot of information. It's new information. So how does that even relate to me? What does that actually mean? So I'm so glad you're bringing it back up. It's so important for us to talk about all of it.
Yeah. And she probably getting that call. She's probably like, I told her that. Why is she calling? Right?
Yeah. But she probably gets that call from almost everyone. Yeah. She probably gets that call a lot. So she's probably like, okay, she's freaking out because the number's not in the ratio, right?
Right.
In that little picture. I totally get it. And I think what's so cool about these kind of doctors that specialize in this, they're so supportive. And they are so just call whenever you're going to freak out, because you're going to freak out, and we're here and we're going to help you. And that is not an experience that I've had with a lot of doctors. It's an amazing experience just to have as a woman, that you can go, you know what? I don't feel great this week. What do you think's happening? Is that just normal? Is that not normal? To be able to speak about your own body and your own wellness and your what's going on and to really be that present and feel supported in that way, where you can be like, and they could be like, yeah, that's just the way it is, or really talk you through, like, let's, what is it and what can we do for you? And maybe it's just your vitamin D that's not high enough, or maybe you're not taking magnesium and you need some, or there's so many supportive ways to take care of yourself that you probably just don't even know or are afraid. Like, can you do too much of this? Can you do too little of it? All of that important balancing act.
I think our experience so much with medicine, like, God willing, you haven't had anything really terrible, right? It's like you get sick or you have symptoms and the doctor treats the symptoms, and they're trained that way, like the general medical community. It's not really about how you feel. It is about those numbers and those ranges, and not addressing underlying symptoms, just treating symptoms, right? Instead of fixing the underlying cause that's making you feel badly. And so I think that's an important shift, I feel, for myself. And I think for women our age, is to find doctors that are not just interested in treating symptoms, but in helping you address the underlying causes of things that are making you feel like shit. Because you don't have to feel like shit, no matter what it is, whether it is hormone related, or it's your allergies, or it's, pain that you have. It's not about deadening the symptom. It's about fixing the problem, or addressing the problem, or trying to improve the problem. And then certainly if there are other things that you need to do to address the symptom, fine, but at least like have somebody worried and concerned enough about you to find the problem. Don't you think?
I agree. And it depends. I think there's like a holistic doctor, there's many other doctors that may, try to listen more and kind of are more equipped to take in all the facets of life and what make you a whole person and that make you well. So there's that. I have like 400 billion thoughts going on in my head right now.
Tell me them all.
I also feel there's very much a stigma about when you're past a certain age, or you've already had your kids, or you don't get your period anymore. Like there's a stigma that it's just going to be that way, right? It's like or you're depressed, right? We're going to make it. So we're going to give you pills for anxiety. We're going to give you pills for depression. We're going to give you pills. And like you're saying, they might be true. And I'm not against you getting support in whatever way you need to, but also getting underneath, making sure that your body is actually producing what it needs to be producing, that it's functioning, that your levels are right, it feels like so much more important to figure out why those things are happening. Because of course, I think women at this age, your anxiety comes up, and when your hormones are all unleveled and you feel like shit and you have no energy and you feel dead inside. Well, yeah, depression, anxiety, all of those things, and you're not sleeping. I mean, there's just so many things. And so it does need to be looked at holistically. And I feel like the nutrition, like when they're like, just eat right. Well, define eat right for this part of your life, because it's really more about adding in the things that add in those things you need. So how do you get more magnesium into your life to help with stress loads and managing sleep? And, did you know grapes have them? Like there's lists of foods that like can support you in so many ways to make sure that you're helping in that way too. But checking your blood levels, seeing how your body actually is functioning. And you can go through a whole nutritional and vitamin support and now check your blood levels again and just see where you are and how that helped and where you need help. And you can support yourself in all different ways. And I think there's a lot more information slowly coming out in that way. And I want to be a part of that and help add to that, and definitely give you some ideas and lists and information that you can support yourself in all sorts of ways to make sure you're feeling good.
Yeah. And we have to take an active role in our care, right? We cannot give up that authority just to the doctors. So I do think that you have to have lots of different people on your team giving you their perspective from whatever their training is. And I think ultimately you have to be empowered and educated enough to make those decisions for yourself. Like my general practitioner is like a real, he is, by the book, classic trained doctor. He knows everything. I know nothing. I'm a moron for taking any kind of vitamin. They don't work. The studies show. Of course, then that study is then, rebuked 3 years later, all back and forth. So that's definitely who he is. And I know that about him, but God forbid I ever got something really horrible and I needed some very traditional like treatment. I would want him on my team. So he gets to stay. But the thing that makes me laugh about him is that I go see him about once a year for physical. And first thing he says to me every time I walk in is, how's your asthma? And I always say, I don't have asthma anymore because I fixed an underlying problem. But he refuses to accept that. And then he always says to me,
frustrating.
Oh, and then he always says to me, well, we don't know the long-term effects of that medicine. And I go, because he wasn't the one who prescribed it. I found it and I had a relationship with an ENT who, by the way, let me just say, if you are suffering from any kind of like sinus polyps, asthma, eczema, food allergies, go look for Dupixent. That is my public service announcement. So he says to me all the time, we don't know what the long-term effects of this medicine is. And I say, yeah, but the short-term effects were I didn't want to live anymore. So it's doing a great job. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't eat. I couldn't taste anything. I was having allergic reaction to everything. I was on like tons of asthma medication. I was exhausted. Like it was no way to live a life. But so
you had to search it out and become your advocate. And I think there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
And I also think there's a lot of not that. So people just take, there's that weird hierarchy, right? Of like the doctor knows everything and he went to school and, and he knows everything about, I say.
Yeah.
But, he's going to give you what he knows. And there's a lot of doctors that specialize in all different things and they know what they know and they know something different than that doctor knows, so it's really about not thinking they know more than you inside your body. They do know a lot more than you in other ways, and you can use them and ask them questions and gather information, but you have to be your advocate about what's going on inside of you.
Absolutely. And he just makes me laugh so hard because he can't accept that maybe something else worked instead of, he's just a symptom treater. He's not a fixer.
Yes.
He's not an underlying problem fixer.
Right.
Which I just,
right. And that doesn't
and I know that about
him. He's like, that doesn't happen. Yeah.
So I do think you have to put your team together and take the advice from lots of different places and then to decide what's working for you. Right. The other thing I thought you were going to say was you started to talk about like the stigma, but I think there's a stigma against these other types of doctors like functional medicine, holistic medicine, dietitian, all these other areas that I think have been treated like quackery, but they're not. There's a place, I think, for a lot of people in different ways. So I think that's kind of unfair too.
Even the pellet treatment that we're both doing right now, people will say something about everything. And if you don't stay open to learning and just decide before that, it's something, then you limit yourself because you don't know and you don't, maybe it isn't right for you, but how do you know until you actually go in, research and try? And, I think there's also this other piece that it's hard to push yourself to be your advocate and to try when you feel like shit and when you feel dead inside and you feel hopeless because this is just the way it's going to be. And I think even for myself, having a friend that we could say, we both feel weird and we both don't feel like we look like ourselves. We don't feel like ourselves. What are we going to do about it? Let's like team up and say, fuck this. Let's try some stuff. And until that moment, and I didn't even realize that I had kind of fallen down the hopeless. And when you fall down the hopeless, you stop trying and you don't care about eating the good stuff and you don't care about exercising as much. You stop going after the things that feel good that or that trying things to find what feels good because you just feel like shit. And so it's hard to reach for the goodness unless you have someone kind of pull you out and say, hey, there's hope. And I hope that we are doing that for you and knowing there really is a way to feel better and to not feel so dead inside and feel so like this is what it looks like from here on out, and it's just going to get worse.
Yeah. You know? Well, I think that for a lot of people that suffer with chronic illness, I mean, that's how I felt. I had chronic illness, and it is the absolute worst, like, because you cannot see a path to ever getting better. And so, like, if you get like a flu or you get like a really bad virus or something, and I've always, in that moment, you appreciate your health. And when you know, oh, it's something that's going to pass and I'm going to get better, you can kind of fight through it. But when you're in that trough of feeling chronically terrible, whether it's something diagnosable or not, it is so deflating and it is so debilitating. And I think you're 100% right. It's really hard to have the energy to continue to seek out answers and believe that you will come to something that makes you feel better. And I did that for many, many years. And like, I'd have a little bit of success and think, oh, I finally am going to turn this around. And then it would stop working. And it's just, I don't even know how I got up and accomplished what I did on a daily basis. I mean, I was going through boxes of tissues a day because I was so like reaction. I couldn't eat anything, nothing. Everything set me off. My body was like in full on fucking revolt. Yeah. And I think I, in some ways, was just lucky that it manifested as this like weird sinus polyp, asthma, food allergy, because what if your body revolts and it's like something arthritic or it's cancer or it's MS? I think all of these things really are just a revolt of your body when it's had it. Yes.
And it's scary. I mean, I've been an autoimmune human my whole life. And so that is, my body goes straight on the attack to itself whenever I'm super depleted. And I have had to learn how to handle that because it just wipes you out. And so I have, you get to a point in your life where I'm going down that path that's going to show up in this way. But it's scary and it's hard. And I've worked with people with chronic pain for years and years, or illness. I've worked with a lot of people with illness, and I think the biggest, most healing thing that I have ever done with those people is to grab their hand and say, "Come on, we got this. Like, let's figure it out. Let's support it. Let's gather you a team. What's going to make you feel good and hopeful inside?" And that to me is that turning point of, gathering your energy to show up for yourself again in a new way. And I think it's really important that we do that for each other. I've seen how huge it can be for someone's healing process.
And I don't think it's something to minimize. We kind of will sort of joke about, oh, it's like your hormones and it's your sex drive and it's how you look. But these are not minor things. There could be a lot worse things to deal with, but providing that you're not dealing with those worst things, like, this is important how you feel every day.
Yes, it's how you show up for everything,
Sure, you're the people that you live with, live for, and you deserve to feel well. And that information is out there. And I don't think it should be so hard to find it. So maybe sharing our experience about how we're finding some relief and success. Maybe our path isn't the right path for you, but maybe at least it sends you down on a path that finds something that helps you feel your best. Whatever that benchmark is for you. Yeah.
And, if you need extra support, here comes the moment we're going to tell you to reach out to us, and we're going to tell you how. Because
that was funny.
One of our good friends the other day said, "I love that you tell us to reach out all the time, but we're not sure where to reach out." So please DM us on Instagram, and you can email us through our website, or what else, Kimby?
Well, I mean, you can message us on Facebook. Yeah. And it's, you can reach Kimby and Tracy, or Tracy and Kimby at themidlife.co. Comes to the same place. So you don't have to remember who goes first. You can reach out to us. You can join our Facebook group, Muddling Through the Midlife. You can post in there. You can post anonymously if you have a question, if you want some, crowdsourcing. So I'm sorry if we had done a bad job, if our friend can't even find us. I'm telling you guys these avenues. Yeah. So email, DM, Instagram, message on Facebook, join Muddling Through the Midlife. And you can post in there. You can post anonymously in there. And those are all the ways to get us.
Yeah. So thanks, Linda. And also, if you guys come up with anything like that, we're always open. We're learning with you. So feel free to share if there's something that you have a question about, or you're like, how do you? We're here for all of it.